Is there anything you can do to the ship or to the cloaking device that would let the Enterprise track us?
Track us? No. We want to get into Federation territory undetected.
What we want is to get the dissidents to safety. Now answer the question, is there a way?
If there were, I wouldn't do it.
Yes, you will.
Counselor.
We're not playing it your way anymore, Navek. I've been kidnapped, surgically altered, put in danger. I've gone along with all your plans. Now you are going to listen to me. You find a way to let the Enterprise track us, or I will go to Toreth and tell her I've discovered you're a traitor. I'll have you ejected into space. Is that clear, Sub-Commander?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fully Functional, Teen G Podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are veteran Trekkies, and Dory is a rookie Trekkie, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek: The Next Generation. Today we're discussing the Season 6 episode, Face of the Enemy. Original air date is February 6th, 1993, and as always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, so this episode asks the question, can a Romulan be hot? And the answer is yes.
That's a good answer.
But only because of this one reason.
Yeah.
So we start off, we're in a dark room, and we hear someone say, oh, turn on the lights. They get up, they go to a mirror, the light turns on, gasp! Troi is a Romulan. That's why,
Yeah.
Troi Romulan, she's hot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you not recognize her voice at first?
Oh, no, I knew it was her immediately.
Okay.
I'm just sort of saying this for the
just
recap version.
Yeah, for just dramatic effect.
Yeah, of course I knew it was Troi.
Awesome.
So, she's on the Imperial Romulan warbird Kazara, and we meet Sub-Commander Navek, who
has a big nose and a big chin.
He looks like he's just sucking on something sour the whole time.
He's a Romulan.
Yeah.
He is.
But I think no offense to that guy, but it might just be his face, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so Troi was at a neuropsychology seminar on Bakara 6, and last thing she remembers is returning to her quarters, and she was attacked. She felt a hypo spray, and Navek is like, it was necessary, because he didn't think she would go voluntarily. So she is no longer in this situation. She's not Deanna Troi. She is Major Recall of the Tal Shiar. And Tal Shiar, they are the Imperial intelligence of Romulans. And they're on this ship. And there's Commander Toreth. And he's like, okay, well, she'll want to know your mission. You can't tell her nothing. Just simply instruct her to proceed to the Caleb sector heading 102 Mark 4. And Troi is like, cool, but I'm not fucking going anywhere until you tell me what the fuck is going on. And his response is, you are a Starfleet officer disguised as a Romulan. Unless you trust me and do exactly what I have said, Toreth will discover you and you will be killed. That doesn't answer a single question.
Yeah.
Not a question is answered in this episode.
They do. So,
not the questions I wanted answers. Or what Troi wanted answers to. Okay, so I feel like they just assume that Troi, because she's an empath, she's an automatic, like, human lie detector, which is, like...
Yeah, I mean, she was sitting right there when they should have been using her as a lie detector in the previous episode, and they didn't. And now in this episode, it's like her entire situation hinges on that.
Well, to be fair,
just once.
Listen, they don't use it like every time they should, but it has been established that she can, sense when people are lying.
Yeah, but yeah, not always though. So okay, Commander Toreth is not happy to have Tal Shiar on board. But she's more pissed about having cargo she knows nothing about on board and wants to check the containers. And Troy's like, try me, bitch. We're going to heading 102 Mark 4.
I love that scene because, like, as she steps onto the bridge, she is, like, super awkward and is just, like, spitting out the first thing she can come up with. And she she makes an effort to actually get into the role very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Marina Sirtis is amazing in this episode.
Yes.
This episode made me be like, let Troi be captain.
She considers this her best work on TNG, and I wholeheartedly agree. This is one of my favorite Troi episodes by a pretty wide margin.
Yeah. And
she's
honestly,
great in this, but my favorite Troi episode is definitely the Fistful of Potatoes. She's the coolest in that.
Honestly, though, like, it kind of makes me a bit mad because I'm like, man, you have such a great actress on this show and you do nothing with her.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so the Enterprise is arriving at Research Station 75 to take on a unique passenger. And then I noticed, did Worf get a haircut? But then, no, he didn't get a haircut.
No.
I realized later, he just got a long ponytail.
Yeah.
So just a hairstyle change, but not a haircut.
Yeah, Worf has his long hair now.
Yeah, I think it's the same haircut that's on my
They've
tray.
actually been... they've actually... They had been lobbying behind the scenes for him to have this change for quite a while. And they finally went with it, and
I'm
they
okay
stick
with that because Worf's haircut up until this point was the same haircut I had in grade 3. So
yeah, Worf, he didn't get a haircut. He
got extensions or something.
Yeah, he got extensions. That's what I was gonna say.
He got a long pony. Okay, so Riker
with like
Worf,
little braids on the side too.
Listen, I'm on board.
Yeah.
I'm on board. I'll take it. It's fine. So Riker, Worf, and Dr. C meet in the transporter room to bring Ensign Desev? I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Desev.
Okay,
it's
on
Desev.
board. Riker is also, he arrives and he's like, Riker is placing him under arrest for treason. And so basically he Desev left, I guess, Starfleet to go join the Romulans at some point. So, and now he's decided to come back to Starfleet. And Riker points his finger at Desev and goes, "Find some civilian clothes. I don't want to see you in that uniform." He's also got I fucking hate the Romulan haircut. It's truly upsetting. So Desev wants to speak to Picard urgently. He's got a message from Spock involving cowboy diplomacy. I got a giggle out of that. There's a Kervalian freighter arriving in the Caleb sector in the next 12 hours. Spock wants Picard to rendezvous with that ship, bring its cargo back to Federation space. The cargo is important to the future of the Romulans and the Federation. And Picard is like, bitch, who are you to tell me any all this shit? And I'm just supposed to take you at your word. And I also, this episode, not unlike the last episode, I had a 50 billion theories going in this. I was wrong every time. So I didn't trust this guy because he's like, oh yeah, I was ready to come back. Romulus wasn't the vibe anymore.
Yeah.
And the appeal, so he's like, well, what made you go to Romulus to start? And he's like, the absolute certainty about what is right and wrong and their high morals. And, what did I write? Is that energy? Oh, who's an enemy and who's a friend? Strict moral compass, which provides them with clarity or purpose. Sure, Jan, whatever okay, sure.
Yeah.
Whatever you say.
I wanted to bring up this in that, his reasoning for Romulus, for wanting to go to Romulus and stuff like that, it's kind of why people are drawn to cults and evangelical Christianity and things like that, is because these are people who because it offers a much more simple life where you don't really have to think about things. You're told what to do, you're given a set of rules, and you just follow those rules and you'll be good. So that's sort of that, him finding that appealing is actually not that unusual.
I think he's full of shit though.
Yeah. Here's the reason I think all that is bullshit, right?
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but like that is the logic that some people like live by.
So, okay, he says that as he got older, he realized a clarity of purpose is a more ambiguous matter. Yeah, no shit. Okay, so back on the Romulan ship, Troi and Nivek are in the cargo bay. People apparently are afraid of the Tal Shiar, and yeah, apparently they're like pretty fucking terrifying. So Nivek shows Troi that in the cargo containers there's a guy who's alive but in stasis. His name is Vice Proconsul Emret from the Imperial Senate, and his 2 top aides are also hanging out in there too. And he's one of the highest ranking members of their government. So Emret is defecting because he questioned the repressive activities of the government and was in danger of being imprisoned. So Nivek is part of Spock's underground movement, and they are trying to get Emret out. If they can deliver Emret to safety, Spock is hopeful they can establish an escape route for thousands of dissidents who live in fear of their lives. So D'Sev is I thought that he was like low key, like this was a trap. Like I thought D'Sev was like playing the other side, where like Nivek was like, okay, we gotta like do this shit. And I thought D'Sev was like supposed to be on the Enterprise to like figure out who was the like Romulan traitor because he was still loyal to the Romulans. Nope. Nope, I was wrong. That is not correct. Troi asks if Major Rakal was a real person, and Nivek tells her, yeah, she was killed so you could take her place. Like, I'm sorry, what? That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Oops.
I mean,
Yeah.
they are Romulan like revolutionaries, but they're still Romulan.
It's pretty fucked up though. Yeah. So basically, she need to become this person, so because the Tal Shiar are the only ones that can really alter a mission. And Troi asks why her. This never gets answered. I maintain this never gets answered. Nivek is like, well, we might need a Starfleet officer later. And like that's not a good answer. And then he's like, the less she knows about the specifics of the plan, the better. Like, no. What she's constantly sending her in unprepared to these situations, and she ands the shit out of it though.
Yeah.
So okay, the plan is when they reach the Caleb sector, they will rendezvous with the Carvelian freighter, as they said on the Enterprise. Well, sort of. One part of the plan we heard on the Enterprise. The Carvelians, they don't know what's in the containers, and they're just hired to take Troi to Federation space. The Carvelians also should mention they're mercenaries, so they're really just like shipment for hire for this particular situation.
Yeah.
So Troi is told she has to have dinner with the senior officers. Not psyched about that. Torith really likes poking at Troi because she does not like the Tal Shiar. But Troy's a fucking champ. She doesn't give a single shit, and she's just like, sorry, is there something you wish to fucking say to me? And we learned, it's fucking personal. Torith's dad was like taken in the middle of the night by the Tal Shiar. And Troy's like, your dad sounds like a traitor. Torith's like, no, he was just an idealistic old man. And like, oh shit. But Troi does have a good line. She goes, I don't need your devotion, Commander, just your obedience. Okay. Sensors are picking up an unidentified ship. It's the Carvelians. He's like, send me the coordinates and we'll like, they're the representative. He's like, we'll beam the cargo on board. And Troy's like, this bitch is lying. And Nivek is like, cool. And then blows up the Carvelian ship, just like right there. And Torith is like, what the fuck? We're all like, what the fuck? And Nivek is like, sorry, Major Rakal Fullett told me to do that. And I was like, gasp. 18 people were fucking killed on that ship. Torith, understandably, is pissed. Troi is like, you will respect my authority, and now we wait. And so, they're waiting for the Enterprise. Well, they don't know they don't know they're waiting for the Enterprise. They're not waiting for the Enterprise. They're just hanging out. Because they don't know at least Troi doesn't know the Enterprise is coming. So actually, neither does Nivek, I guess. So the Enterprise
Yeah, nobody really knows.
Arrives in the Caleb sector, and there's no one there. So Picard and Worf talk to Desev, and they're like, "Hey, what the fuck's going on here?" Turns out, like, the info that Desev was like gave them wasn't actually directly from Spock. It was a little bit of broken telephone from someone who heard it from Spock. Happened to a friend of mine.
Yeah, but he's like, okay, I didn't talk directly to Spock, but this guy says he did.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh yeah, and then this is when I realized Worf didn't get a haircut; he got extensions.
Yeah.
So Desev is like, there's like also some more information about the cargo ship, and they're all like, so Desev, so okay, now Troi and Nivek meet. Everything is falling apart. Nivek is like, remember when I said we might need a Starfleet officer? Well, there's a Starfleet base, Draken 4, 2 days away at Max Warp, and that's where we're going now. And Nivek is like, yeah, you're going to command Torith to take us there into Federation space, and you'll provide the access codes. And why would Troi have the access codes? What universe?
Because it's
that
convenient.
makes absolutely no fucking sense. Why would Troi, the counselor, have access codes to Federation space?
Yeah, I think she
to
is...
sensors and shit.
What's
Why
her
would she need
rank?
that?
I think she's a lieutenant commander, right? She's not a commander yet.
Yeah, Lieutenant Commander. That's right.
But in her position, there's no reason why she would have that sort of access.
She definitely
sense
would
to me.
not have.
So Troi and Nivek, they tell Torith the new plan to deliver the cargo directly to Draken 4. But what did I write? I don't know what I wrote, so I'm just gonna... Okay, I figured out what I wrote. Okay. So it's fine. They can deliver the cargo directly to Draken 4 because the Tal Shiar has obtained the codes to the sensor nets. Of course they did. Yeah, totally legit. So then Torith is like, people blame the military for wars that we were asked to fight, but I think it is your kind, Major, that will be the death of us all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish there was more exploration of that, about the like politics versus soldiers aspect of it, because like I have a lot of problems with the military, but people are indoctrinated into getting into it, and like many of them do not have the kind of self-awareness or even awareness of the world to understand what it is they're getting into.
Like especially in the States.
And people are held responsible quite often for, being part of that system, but they just grew up in the system and made a choice based on what information was available to them. There are people actively lying to them. It's their fault that shit happens.
I think Jeff, you've talked about this before with your grandfather, but his opinion is not a unique opinion in that all the soldiers fucking hated the officers. And like hated all
definitely.
The basically all the decision makers, because like they don't give a flying fuck about anything. This is why, by the way, if you're like don't really know much, and you're like, because Henry Kissinger just died, and you're like, wow, why do people hate this guy so much? Because he made fucked up decisions. That was his whole deal. He basically like sent people to their death, and also like made like life of like the places where they attacked like fucking nightmarish. Like he is just an evil person, and he didn't personally do any of the atrocities, but he was the decision maker behind so many fucking atrocities. Yeah, anyway, that's my rant. Fuck Henry Kissinger. He can... If there is a hell, I hope he's in it.
Okay, so then, like, gasp, sensors detect a vessel. Gasp, it's the Enterprise. So Torith is like, let's get the fuck out of here. But Troy's like, let's wait for a minute and see what we learn. What the fuck's going on? And Torith is like, fine, we're going to, like, we need to fucking go, though. So the Enterprise learns there is debris of the freighter that they were supposed to meet. Red alert, Romulans may be in the area. So Troi thinks they need to get in touch with the Enterprise like ASAP, but they can't really do so without being immediately discovered. So Troi asks if there's a way to let the Enterprise track them. But Nivek's like, oh, if there were, we wouldn't do it. And Troy's like, we're not playing it your way anymore, Nivek. I've been kidnapped, surgically altered, put in danger. I've gone along with all your plans. Now you're going to listen to me. You find a way to let the Enterprise track us, or I will go to Torith and tell her I've discovered you're a traitor. I'll have you ejected into space. Is that clear, Sub-Commander?
Mm-hmm. She's so fucking badass in this scene.
I love that. Yeah. She's like, I'll have you ejected into space.
Yeah.
That's the scene where she decides the only way out of this is to be a Romulan.
Yep. So he's like, okay, well, there is a thing that he might be able to get the ship's engineer to do because, like, the engineer's sympathizer. So the engineer might be able to, like, slightly misalign one of the, like, nullifier cores, and it would create a small magnetic disruption in space when they're in motion, and effect would be intermittent. So... but it's a risk they gotta take. Mm-hmm. And so then back on the Enterprise, Data's like, immediately Data's like, sensors are picking up polarized magnetic distortion to their port side. And the distortion is weak and moving slowly. Then the distortion disappears. Picard immediately is like, could it be a cloaked ship? And they're like, I don't know. Their, like, understanding of Romulan technology is pretty limited. So, like, right? Mm-hmm. So Desev says that Romulan ships use a forced quantum singularity as a power source. If that system is not functioning perfectly or is damaged even slightly, it might show through the cloak as a magnetic disturbance of some kind. So the distortion has reappeared. Desev agrees it probably is a cloaked ship. So Picard says, follow that distortion. Mm-hmm. So the Romulans realize that the Enterprise is heading for them. And they're gonna, like, go right under the hull. And Torith is, like, trying to figure out if the Enterprise can track them through the cloaking. So Torith is like, we're gonna pass as close to them as fucking possible. And if the Enterprise they're gonna play space chicken. Mm-hmm. So if the Enterprise moves out of the way, then they know that they're being tracked. And then they'll just attack the Enterprise. It's totally fine. So Data says the Romulan ship is coming right at them, possible impact in 90 seconds, and Picard's like, move!
Yeah.
So Torith is like, prepare to attack.
Move, get out the way!
And ready to decloak and attack on her command. And then Troi steps in. She's like, actually, we're not going to do any of that. Mm-hmm. How typical of the military to resort to brute force when discretion is required. And Troy's like, we attack them, then they will attack us. And we don't have our shields up when we're cloaked. So, and Torith is like, you're questioning me? And Troy's like, you're not fit to command. And Nivek's reactions to all this are very funny. He's shaken to his very core. And then Troi is like, if you don't listen to me, not only will you be punished, but, she says this to the other Romulans, the other crew. Mm-hmm. She's like, if you don't listen to me, follow my orders, not only will you be punished, but your families also. Mm-hmm. She's the captain now.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, Torith is commanded to step down. And Troy's like, watch and learn. We're going to reveal ourselves and then fucking destroy them. So the Enterprise is being hailed, and we see Troi up on the screen in the Zoom call, and Worf is like does like a really funny double take.
Yeah,
because initially it seems like he's the only one that's like, wait, that's fucking Troi.
Yeah,
everyone else is like very chill.
Yeah.
So Picard is like, okay, so like the freighter. And Troy's like, lol, I think we should talk. How about beaming me over to talk? Picard's like, yeah, sure, come on over. Mm-hmm. So the Enterprise lowers their shields, and Troy's like, fire. And I was like, what is happening? Troy's a fucking genius. Mm-hmm. Oh, God. So the Enterprise they were like hit directly, but like barely any impact. Like the disruptor has no power. They've been fucking leaking shit for a while. So Troi, during that, like, when they fired, sends over the cargo, so sends over Moret and friends to the bridge, like right, just like the body is just right on the bridge, totally chill. And so Torth realizes that, oh, sabotage, and the beam was to hide the transportation beam, like the beam to hit the Enterprise, was actually to hide the transportation beam to the Enterprise. So Torth is like, we've got traitors in our midst. So she goes for her phaser, but she doesn't have one because they took it from her when they were 2 seconds ago when they were told her to step down.
Yeah.
So Nivek grabs his and someone shoots him and he is fucking dissolved.
Yeah.
So rip to Nivek, I guess.
Apparently, behind the scenes, they actually pushed for that death to be like as gruesome as they could get away with.
Listen, at this point, nothing is going to be, to me, as gruesome as when that person got stuck in the floor.
Oh, yeah.
That's fair,
That to me is the worst way anyone, even though Dexter exploded, that lady who got stuck in the floor, that to me is so much more upsetting. Okay, so then they have to turn off the shield to cloak, and so in that split second, the Enterprise gets Troi off the Romulan ship. So Geordi is waiting for her to bring her to sickbay. So now, cut to sickbay. Troy's looking like herself, and how did they do the hair? I've got lots of questions.
Maybe it's a wig, or maybe while she was doing surgery, they gave her like a haircut. Or do you mean how did they give her old hair back?
Yeah, how do they give her old hair
Maybe
back?
the future has like some super hair growing shit. You know.
Oh no, but it was doesn't quite make sense to me.
Well,
anyway.
it's the future. It's the future. I get that's the excuse.
So we learned Moret is really grateful for Troy's help, and they now have a path that can get the people out of Romulus. So again, I think Troi would actually be a really good captain.
Yes.
They gave her like a tiny shot a while ago, but they just made her fall to shit, which was like really unfortunate. But now we know she can fucking handle herself. Well, we knew she could handle herself. I felt very out of character when she kind of fell to shit previously.
Yeah.
There was no reason why Troi should have been on this mission.
Yeah.
There's no reason.
Yeah.
Originally, they were gonna use Crusher for it, and then they decided that Troi would be a better fit.
The only time that Troi came in handy, like in terms of like why she needed to be there, was the Cavalians when they were like, she's like, oh, they're not fucking telling the truth. Yeah. And that was one time.
Yeah.
Albeit it was like a major thing, but still, there was truly there was no reason for Troi to be there.
Yeah. Listen, I am glad they did it, but it does not make sense.
Yeah, the premise behind this falls apart when you think about it too much.
When you think about it for 1 second. The
just
second I saw her in the Romulan thing, I was like, why is Troi there?
So just don't.
It made absolutely no sense to me. I think the writers...
Nope, just don't think about it.
It's impossible. The writers really just like I can't imagine they've run out of ideas at this point, but like there's got to be some like thinking about like, hey, would it make sense? I feel like that's a question that TNG writers don't ask themselves enough. Would this make sense? Because we know they don't give a shit about continuity, but would this make sense? I feel like that would save a lot of like issues, at least for me.
Yeah, but then we wouldn't have this episode.
I would be okay with that.
Really?
I did not. I'm not a big fan of this episode. I was really frustrated because I can't get over the fact that there was no reason for Troi to be there. They put her through more trauma for what? Like, yeah, I get the main idea. No, I can't not think about it.
Dory, you are concerned about
Troy's well-being,
the premise making sense, while your favorite genre of film are musicals, which very rarely have a premise that makes sense for them to stop doing what they're doing and start singing.
No, there is a logic to that. It's the thing of like you're feeling something so strong that you can no longer talk it, you have to sing it. That's sort of the concept.
And it turns into a choreographed dance.
But also,
as well.
musicals aren't my favorite genre.
Yeah,
I do love musicals.
But okay,
fair
here's
enough.
the thing.
But musicals are also they're involved in that's involved in storytelling, and it doesn't make sense to someone burst into song, but it tells a story. It contributes to plot, to how people are feeling. This made no sense.
Yeah, the
There
fact
was absolutely you literally could change Troi with literally anyone, and this wouldn't make a big difference.
Yeah, the fact that they're singing isn't a plot error.
Yeah.
Like
Okay, fair
where
enough.
like it's not a story problem, you know. This
Music is supposed to be there to its expression. It's to I can't remember the exact like quote, but it's something along the lines of like you can't can't talk it, so you have to sing it.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But
Well,
yeah, the point of a musical is not for it to.
It's symbolism.
Yes. Like, but if you're going to a musical, you have to. But singing is not going to change. Singing is like what helps the plot move along.
Yeah.
If you take out fucking Velma Kelly in Chicago and change it with someone else, that's gonna make a fucking difference. But if you change Troi with someone else in this episode, it's not gonna make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, like I mentioned, the previous idea was to make it Crusher.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of get not being able to get over it. I just disagree. For me, I think the episode's good enough that I'm like, that's fine. I don't really care that it doesn't technically make sense.
It's more of not so okay. Yes, like it bothers me because it doesn't make sense, but I'm just frustrated because this is another episode of them putting Troi through shit for what?
Yeah,
they're traumatizing her for another time for what? Because it's not even about her. She literally says she's been kidnapped, she's been surgically altered to further someone else's agenda. She has nothing, she had no choice. She's literally has nothing to do with any of this, and she's forced. Because then literally Nivek's like, oh, by the way, you have to do this because you are if they find out that a Starfleet officer is on the ship, you'll be killed.
Yeah.
And like, that's really unfair. She didn't ask. It's one thing if she volunteered to help and put and like that honestly would have made such a huge difference to me, is if they asked her for help and she agreed. That would have been made, because then it's her own agency. She's made the choice to put herself in this position, to risk her life to help for something she believes in. But the way that they did it in the show, she's forced to put her own life like in danger because other people decided that for her. She never gets to make her own. She loses her agency constantly in episodes about her, and that's what makes me furious. And that's why I didn't care
that is definitely a problem with.
And that's why I can't
writing women in this show quite a bit.
But I feel like they do
Troi,
it more to Troi than they do to Dr. C.
Definitely.
And
no, you're definitely correct.
That's why
there,
I can't. Like, I did not really enjoy this episode because to me, as much as I thought Troi, like Marina Sirtis was incredible and like Troi really was like a badass in some parts, but I could not get into this episode because I was really angry that again, the writers have put her in a situation that she has no control over and she didn't have a choice. Something is another storyline that's being pushed on her that she didn't get to make any choices about.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's why I can't get, like, I have a hard time. I can't get behind this episode.
That's fair.
I could not enjoy this episode. Because then also, like, I kept thinking of like how long was she gone from her seminar? Would nobody notice that she's gone at the seminar? Because obviously on the Enterprise, maybe people would, like, it wouldn't be as like, oh my God, where's Troi, because she's at a seminar.
Yeah.
But I just can't help but be like, did nobody fucking notice anywhere that she was gone all of a sudden?
I mean, the seminar thing, I don't know if it's like the kind of thing where people are taking
attendance or
what do you call it? People are taking any kind of attendance or anything. Because if they're not,
because then that to me also makes it sadder that she was disappeared and nobody fucking knew. So nobody knew to look for her. No one knew to be worried. Like, if she died during that, then like what would have happened? Like if she died during this mission.
The timing is kind of ambiguous, and
yeah, it is.
It seems like to me that this was something that was like pretty quick. Like it wasn't like she was on the ship for days. I think.
No. I think it was the same day. I don't think it took place over a significantly long amount of time.
So here's the thing: it's like if they kidnapped her like at night or something, and like people think like it's still like people are asleep or whatever during the conference, like maybe it was long enough that's like, you know, there could be reasonable, like it could be reasonable that people would go that long without seeing her and no one would think anything of it.
Yeah, but my point here is the fact that nobody knew she was gone at any point, that if she died during this mission, they would have no idea what the fuck happened to her. She would just be gone.
Yeah.
And that, again, like that to me, that's probably, again, something the writers did not consider. Mm-hmm. And that like Troi just would have been gone. That's it. Yeah. No one would have known what happened to her. And everyone would have just had to like live with that of just she's gone.
Yeah. That's one of the things that like raises the stakes too. Like not only,
but to me that just makes me angry because the thing is, it's not even so much, it's not stakes to me because nobody knows she's there. So like it's stakes for her to live, but outside of that, like...
No, that's the stakes for her, right? It's like, not only could you be killed, but, like, no one knows you're here. So that's, like, extra pressure.
Well, this episode just made me, like, frustrated.
Yeah, I totally get that. I guess...
It feels like when they have a story that they just need, they can't decide who to put in. They're just like, let's throw Troi in there. Because they always give her stuff that is fucking wild. It's either she's being assaulted or harmed in some way, or she's being tortured psychologically, or like they put her in the most random fucking situations. And they're like, ooh, we don't know what to put in. Oh.
Yeah,
Jordy was horny last episode. Let's get Troi in there. Like, what?
Yeah, it's definitely a pattern of behavior with the show.
It really fucking sucks.
Yeah, it definitely does.
I guess feel like at this point in the show, and I think I might have mentioned this before, they have reached a point where they're not really sure where they're going with characters now. Like earlier on, they didn't know really what the direction they wanted to take with the characters was. They had an idea for it. Excuse me. And that ended up not being the idea that they ended up falling on and like sticking with. But now they're at a point where they've told a bunch of stories about these characters and they're like, well, what can we tell about them that's new? And they're starting to run out of ideas of what's new now.
Yeah.
This is also 6 years into the show, so there's that.
And that's the problem, because they really should have thought of the storylines around what the fucking characters should want to be accomplishing and doing, because this was fucking pointless.
Yeah.
This is, like, that's just coming up with, like, a story for the sake of a story that doesn't...
I mean, that's kind of...
Well, I mean, that's how weekly TV writing works.
But you want it to somehow progress, like, either the larger story, or at the very least, if it's not going to progress the larger story, which that doesn't happen in this, but, like, at least then it's character moments. This, nothing. Because even when Troi, she'll go back, and nothing will change for her. No one will know how fucking badass she was on that ship. Like, she will not get any other kind of, like responsibilities or any other kind of anything back on the Enterprise. They'll just carry on and nothing happened.
I feel like you can argue that about a lot of episodes,
but
though,
a lot
even
of
ones that are good.
But a lot of the episodes, though, are still like directly connected to a person's emotional journey. And like, it's about them. This is not an episode about Troi. She just happens to be there. And that... I wish the writers thought more about what they wanted to accomplish with the characters, because if they like thought about it for at least like, I don't know, 15 minutes or something and decided where they wanted to go with Troi, I feel like they could have given her some really good shit. They give a lot of good shit to Picard. They give Riker a lot of good shit. They give Data a lot of good shit, as they should, but I feel like they're giving good shit to only certain characters.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they thought they were giving her good shit in this episode.
They They gave the actress good shit, but they didn't give the character good shit.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
That's the difference to me.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'm happy enough for it to be an episode that's just an excuse to, like, have Troi be badass for a bit.
That's fair. Yeah. That's fair. I've just learned at this point that's not good enough for me. My expectations have changed of what... I mean, it shouldn't. My expectations should still be low. But I think we're this far in that I care... You're care so much about... I care about Troi so fucking much that it fucking gets me angry that they're still... Like, this... Like, that they're still treating her like this. That she's just a prop in the story. Because this was not an episode about her. And that it just gets me angry. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm going to end up with like an episode that is a Troi-centric episode that I'm going to be happy with. I think at this point, I don't, like, unless something super surprises me, I'm not sure there's like, I can't think of a single episode that's been like Troi-centric that I liked. Like off the top of my head, maybe there is something that I'm not remembering, but off the top of my head, all I can think about is all the trauma that she's had to face. I can't think of an episode. I was like, ooh, this was Troi and I got to go back. And because earlier on I said, my favorite Troi episode is one where she's in a very little bit. It's a fucking Worf episode. The Data one, that's like a Worf. It's not even Troi, but she does so fucking good in that episode, and she doesn't get a lot to do.
You know what's sad? One of the biggest moments of growth for her in the series, we haven't actually got to it.
Oh my god, we haven't gotten to it
what
yet.
Happens in it. Well, okay, I'm not saying the only moment of growth. I said one of the biggest moments of growth. It's okay for that to be towards the end of the show. Anyway, one of the biggest moments of growth for her is, oddly enough, in a B plot. It's a B plot that's focused on her, and it is very much about her. But it's the B plot,
and
of an
that's
episode.
Okay. It just, as long as like we want something about her that helps her progress as a person, as a character, but just throwing her into stuff and calling it a day, that doesn't. If she's not relevant to the story,
to be fair here, I feel like you're kind of knocking the episode a bit harshly. Like I know it wasn't for you and you have criticisms of it and that's fine, but you're kind of treating it more like you think the episode was like plopped together in an hour and they didn't bother to care about it.
No.
Like,
I think they thought about the plot. I don't think they thought about Troi. I think take the Troi aspect out of it, this episode is fine. I think Torith is a really interesting character. I do think like
that's her. That actress says that's her third time on D&D.
Oh,
actually.
wild! Like she was
at her second time playing a Romulan, which is kind of funny.
Well, I thought she was a really interesting character. This was the Tal Shiar. That whole dynamic. Yeah. I think that I don't think we've come across that yet. So like the fact that there's so much hostility between like. With regards to them, I think that's really interesting. There's a lot of aspects of this episode that I liked and I thought were interesting, but I have a really hard time settling on like, oh yeah, like I would never watch this episode again because it just gets me frustrated. It's the Troi aspect.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because like I really liked how like you know, they were able to get her, the way that she used the beam as a way of distraction, like shooting the Enterprise to try to like get Emret over.
I think that was technically Nivek's idea.
Okay, well, either way, I think that was like,
and he was murdered for it.
Either way, I think that was like a smart thing to do. I like that, you know, they got her out of there like right in that second of when they put cloaking up. Like there was like little there was things about this I liked.
That ending could have been much less rushed.
I just can't.
To be fair. God damn.
I couldn't enjoy.
They wrapped it up in like 30 seconds.
It's the thing is like I didn't think this was a bad episode. I just couldn't enjoy this episode. Okay. And that's it. That's my issue. Is I don't think this was bad. I couldn't enjoy it. Yeah,
I get that. I think maybe like we're just too used to it. Like we know the deal. It's like yeah, I already know how this show treats Troi.
Like, oh boy, another dumb TNG premise.
Yeah,
well,
it's like I already know how this show treats Troi, and I'm like, well, at least she gets to be fucking badass in this one. So maybe we're just too
Dory,
used to it.
I'd actually like to bring up something interesting, because I don't know if we'll end up getting to DS9, knock on wood, and continue doing the podcast at that point. But there is a DS9 episode which involves none of the characters on DS9 and takes place in 1960s America.
Okay.
And all of the actors from DS9 end up playing a character in the episode, and it's about these like completely different people. It's centered around the story of a black man in the 1960s writing science fiction, and his science fiction idea ends up being DS9.
That's very meta.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. I kind of want to get that far and see what you think of an episode like that, because similarly, it doesn't advance Star Trek at all. It doesn't advance the plot of any of the main characters. It's not even about any of our characters. It's a completely self-contained story in that case. No, I know that. I know it's a different thing.
Yeah.
I would love to see what your reaction to that one is. Based on your opinion of this, I think it would be an interesting dichotomy, because the two of them have similar contributions to the series, and that they're both well-regarded episodes, but they're technically not even episodes that like need to.
I don't
exist
think
in
you're
the
understanding what the main problem is. It's not necessarily.
No, I understand her problem is that it's not really a story about anything, even though it's centered around Troi, and it does nothing
my
for her
problem
except
is
put her
that
in danger.
this episode has nothing to do with Troi. If they literally put any other character in there, the story would not be different. I feel like Troi is an afterthought, and she is just neglected again as a character to just fill in a blank and not have any kind of agency. And it's not about that episode, like, you know, it's not about this episode per se. It's the way that the writers treat her in this episode, and just the fact that there's nothing for her. Like, she's not an yes, she's an integral part of the story, but that's not her choice. There's no reason for her to be there.
Yeah, I think it's less about like that it doesn't progress anything or whatever. It's just that there's no reason for her to be there. It's part of the pattern of behavior of the show's treatment of Troi. Right?
Okay,
so it's not necessarily about that specifically, that it's like, oh, this doesn't progress her character or the story or anything like that. It's part of it, obviously, but it's more like that I
think
the show keeps doing this to her.
Yeah, I think like that would have made the biggest difference, as I said earlier, is if she was given the option and if she volunteered to do this. That would be a huge deal to me, is if she chose to be part of this mission, if she chose to be involved, this would be a game changer for me.
Yeah,
like this episode would be completely different. Like I would feel completely different. But the fact that they've thrown her into a situation again where she's got no anything, and if they're throwing her into the situation, there's just no reason for her to be in this episode. They don't.
Okay, that's fair.
At least like if you're gonna throw her in there and put her in this, then like you give her some kind of character development. That's what I mean. But they don't do that. There is no reason for her to be in this episode. So that's kind of my biggest issue, is they used her for no reason. Like they used her like that, and that's why I'm frustrated. Is they're like, I wish that they thought about it just like a little bit, because truly, if she volunteered for this, that would have made a world of difference.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is, like, Star Trek just has, like, such a bad record of how it treats female characters.
Definitely.
It's pretty terrible. Like
even when you get to series that come after this, like you get to DS9, and like Dax's best episodes are not the best episodes of the series. Kira's sometimes can be pretty damn irritating.
Yeah, but they don't disrespect the characters like they do, like they disrespect Troi. Yeah.
Oh.
Like,
no, they definitely do.
do they?
I don't know if you remember the first Dax-centric episode in DS9, but it is essentially a courtroom drama all about her in which she has no opinion whatsoever and just wants to give up.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That episode is like kind of looked down upon as like, wow, this is what we did with a character this interesting? Great.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Although, to be fair, they get better at it.
They do. Yeah. But like even once you get to Voyager, you get problems like that.
I just want to I want to say like DS9 is a step up. It's definitely a step up, but it's far from perfect. Yeah, that's the thing. At least in later series, they don't tend to victimize the women as harshly as they did Troi.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Wait. Enterprise does.
Oh yeah, I forgot about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also
Enterprise has an entire like drug addiction story for T'Pol and does a lot of real rapey things towards her.
Yeah, that's true. And the way they shot the show is like very, very exploitative of the actress.
Are you saying that you don't like people to be in skin-tight outfits all the time that hurt their back?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Clearly, you just have no taste.
Maggie, what a hot take.
Yeah. And then, I guess, people are divisive on DS9, but that's more so of, it's not in holding with Star Trek because it's darker, or whatever the fuck people want to say. But, in fairness, Voyager and Enterprise is when there was a distinct downshift in quality of Star Trek. Yeah, yes. So it was that's when it was Brendan Braga, right, who got more control, or was it? No, it was it was Rick Berman.
Rick Berman and Brendan Braga, actually. By that point, Braga was a full-on co-producer of the show, which is not something that had happened in previous shows. But long story short, TNG, I've already gone into how there are multiple writers who've contributed several episodes to the show, but also every now and then,
and they're both
every now and then, but quite often it'll be here's a nobody who wrote this episode, or they bought this script or something like that. And by the time you hit Enterprise, it's all right, so this is our fifth Brandon Braga script of the month.
And if I remember correctly, both pretty big misogynists. At least Rick Berman, I think.
Rick Berman, yes. Brandon Braga, not as far as we can tell.
He just
kind of seems more he just kind of sucks. He's just he followed the tropes of the time.
Sucks not as a person, as a writer, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he has written some really good episodes.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's few and far between, considering how much he ended up contributing by the end. Now, this one was not a Brandon Braga episode, though.
No. Yeah, I'm just saying, I guess my point was just that, the people who, weren't really interested in the progressive values of Star Trek, that's when they started to get more control.
Yes.
Yeah.
This episode was actually written by the same guy who wrote Ship in a Bottle 2 episodes ago.
Neat. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but I guess I am a little surprised at your reaction to this episode, Dory. But when you explain it, I totally get it.
I want to like this stuff, but they're making it very hard.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I think Maggie and I also connect to this episode on a different level, because her and I are very interested in Star Trek's political intrigue that they get into quite a bit in DS9, and this is one of the earliest tastes of it. I'm pretty sure that you noticed that you see more about how Romulan society and Romulan culture are built up in this episode than we saw in the entire two-parter that's about Romulans.
Yeah. No, and I'm interested in that. I think it's interesting. And I am
It is.
interested to learn more. I just wish they didn't do that at the expense of Troi.
No, I get it. Like you have made your point. It's just it's one that Maggie and I connect to on a different level simply because that's like Star Trek lore is something that her and I have been very invested in for a long time, and this is one of the episodes that dives into that in ways that many others do not, especially in TNG where you don't get as much of it.
Yeah, I'm more so because I'm not trying to like delegitimize your feelings about the episode. I'm more just trying to justify why, even though I agree with you, I still like the episode despite those problems.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of people like this episode.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad episode. And I said before, I just couldn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because of, well, I've said it all before. I don't
No,
need to repeat
that's
myself
totally
again,
fair.
but-
I've had situations like that before too, where like an episode of a show or a movie or something, there'll just be some aspect of it that like I just can't get over. Like these days, what I'm finding is I noticed this a while ago, but like anytime I watch something and there's like even if it's like from an era where like, you know, this was more like normalized and accepted, I'm finding anytime there's stuff where like people are like make like man in a dress jokes where like the whole joke is just like haha man in dress, I can't get over it, and I just can't enjoy the media.
Yeah,
like,
that's very fair. I don't disagree with that. Yeah. I mean, also the thing is with me, one minor thing can really just ruin a whole thing for me.
Yeah,
I mean,
we had that discussion about you can't watch The Shining.
The Shining, yeah. So
because the font color.
The opening credits of The Shining are these beautiful. I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast. I know I've told you guys, but. The opening credits of The Shining are these beautiful wide shots of like really beautiful scenery. And then the font is this just really plain font that is light blue for some reason. And it's so distracting that like, I've only seen The Shining one time the whole way through. And I couldn't get into it because all I could think about was like, I don't trust Stanley Kubrick. Like, what the fuck was that choice? Is the fucking font?
I mean, it's not a bad idea to not trust Stanley Kubrick.
I just was like, I can't like be scared of this movie.
Yeah.
Because that font. And also, I feel like now, this is so dumb, but I don't think I'll ever be scared watching The Exorcist because I've seen part of it, but I was really, really drunk. And I was watching it with the sound off. So I don't think... like this was at a friend's Halloween party years ago.
Yeah, this was at my Halloween party, I think. When I lived with our other friend, right? And we had this was at our friend's apartment in Scarborough. Oh, okay.
And
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I just was like really drunk on a very stupid cocktail of vodka and pink cream soda.
Although
it's very like, listen, it gets the job done, but it's really dumb. But yeah, the Exorcist was playing on the background, and it was off, and I just was like sitting on the floor laughing my ass off at that because I didn't really get what's going on. But like, it wasn't scary to me, and I don't think it ever will now.
Yeah. So when I say this next thing, I mean it with affection. All right, this isn't a criticism. I mean it with affection. But now when I like watch stuff. Because a lot of times you find, and I don't mean this in regards to this specific episode, I mean this generally, you find things to be annoyed or mad at that I would never think of.
Oh, yeah.
so when I watch stuff now, I'm like, how could Dory be mad at this? I just play
will find a way.
Play this game in my head. I'm like, what angle could Dory take to be annoyed by this?
Well, here's the thing. You'll never get it because then there's some things that I'll watch and people will expect I will get frustrated or angry at it. And I'll be like, no, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
like 10 out of 10, no complaints. We'll watch 50 billion times.
Like Face Off.
Face Off, incredible movie.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. Truly,
Well, the first 20 minutes was.
The first 20 minutes is truly some of the best cinema I've ever seen in my life. But that movie just was incredible. Unhinged, incredible.
Yeah.
That movie doesn't make a lick of sense.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
Yeah.
No, I will say you'll never be able to predict what will get me, what will set me off about a movie or a TV show or something, because I don't know. Because
and dude, I respect the hell out of that.
It's that sometimes it's a really tiny thing, or sometimes it's like, I don't care. It just is like, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what'll set me off until I see it.
Yeah.
So,
dude, it's like genuinely, it's one of my favorite things about you. It's so funny. All right, I think we've been in distraction corner enough. Let's sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. No, I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah. Unless anyone has anything else, I think it's fair to move on to favorite moments and lines.
I liked Troi taking control and being like, fuck all of you. Like, I'm the captain now. Yeah.
It's fair if that's it.
Yeah, I like that Troi got to be kind of a badass, but
yeah.
That's it, I guess. That's my favorite part.
My favorite bit is specifically, like, I love Troi in this episode, like, overall. I think she does an amazing job, and as Dory said before, she, like, yes-ands the shit out of the situation.
I just remembered, sorry, one tiny thing. Worf's reaction to seeing Troi on the monitor, being like, wait, that's Troi! Like, the double take. Oh, yeah, and Worf's new hairdo. Okay, sorry.
No. Totally fair. My specific favorite moment is the moment when Troi finally tells, what was his name? Nivek? Yeah, when she's finally like, listen, we're doing this my way now. Like, I love that whole scene where she's like, she just finally stands her ground and is like, listen, you've been putting me through all this fucking shit. Now it's my turn to take charge. Which, talking about it now, which is one of the reasons I feel like a little more comfortable with this episode, and like, I totally get it if this doesn't make it up for you, but like, she at least gets her moment to say like, to fully take charge of the situation, and she gets to like, tell him off for doing this shit to her. It's still like, it doesn't totally make up for the situation, but I like that she at least got to be like, hey, what you did was fucked up.
She had to stand up for herself.
Yeah. So yeah, that's...
The thing is, the whole episode revolves around like a power dynamic in which both Toref and Troi are trying to gain control of the situation for completely different reasons, because Troi would very much love to have Toref have total control as long as she wouldn't die in the process, and she has to take control of the situation in order to prevent that, and god damn, when she does, it's with like remarkable force.
Yeah. And you talking about that right now sort of made me think of something that I feel like in the most recent Troi episodes, I feel like what the writers are trying to do maybe is try and like sort of plant all these seeds about like Troy's more capable than she thinks she is. She gets put in this situation that she would never normally get put into, and it kind of forces her to have to like take control and be a less passive character.
Yeah, that's not a bad point, actually, because they haven't really established her as somebody to take control of a situation in the show at this point. Like, she's there, things happen, she's the emotional, empathic character, and like this is kind of a fish out of water approach to that. It's let's take her and like take away that thing that we always do with her and put her in a more interesting, like more exciting situation where she has to take control of it.
Yeah, I wish they could find a way. I wish they could have found a way to do it without like constantly traumatizing her. And in a way where that got to show through in more episodes than just episodes where she's the sole focus. Because it feels like when she's not the sole focus of the episode, she's basically just, like, tossed into the background.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, she shows up in a conference room scene and they call it a day.
Whereas, like, other characters get to have moments even in episodes where it's not, like, their episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, my favorite scene actually ends up being the dinner scene, and it's funny because they talked a little bit about that behind the scenes where like they didn't really know what to have the characters do next, and there's this old writing adage which is if you don't know what to do with your characters, make them have a meal.
It's so true. It makes the scene more interesting. It's what's called give them some business to do.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that because, honestly, I really enjoy Tereth in this episode. She's like, everything that she says is with this, like, confident asshole smirk. And I really enjoy that because, like, she's right. That's what makes it such, like she's allowed to be confident. She's allowed to be a dick about it because she is, for the most part, correct about her assessment of things. Now, her assessment when she decides she wants to shoot at the Enterprise was a little dumb. But everything else was just like, nah, this character's fire. I like her. It's actually not even the last time that we'll see that actress in Star Trek. She shows up twice more throughout the series. I don't remember if it's in TNG, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Star Trek in general just loves to bring actors back to play different characters.
Yes, except Aquiel.
Yeah. So that dinner scene, like one of the things I love about that dinner scene too is how Troi gets around like not knowing certain information.
Yes.
Like when she's like, "Oh, you should try this dish." Like, I don't remember. It's like Valeric or some shit.
Something
Romulan,
food. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, try this dish. And, like, Troi doesn't necessarily know, like, which dish is which. So she just grabs one. And it turns out not to be the wrong one. And luckily, the way she does it, the commander of the ship interprets it as her being like, ew, no.
Yeah.
And Troi has a really good line about like, oh, I've smelt better on like prison ships. That's why I'm not bothering to eat it. And then later in the same conversation, she asks about like, oh, so you went to this academy. Surely you must know this professor. And Troi, it really cleverly works around that she has like no idea what she's talking about.
Yeah.
So
I think
it was a very good like push and pull in that scene.
Yeah, I think what I enjoy the most about it is that it's about the power imbalance that's there, and how Troi is trying to passively assert a balance but can't, and so she's forced to put herself in a situation where she is taking control of the situation.
And
Dory,
it's also
sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
I just want to get
first.
Yeah, it's also interesting that because if Troi wasn't in disguise, she would be agreeing, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to have to see Troi, like, not, like, have to play up like she disagrees.
Yeah. So, Dory, this actress, the last time you would have seen her in TNG was in an episode called First Contact, where they came across this planet that had discovered warp travel or was about to discover warp travel, and they were making contact with them, and Riker has to do coercive sexy time with someone down on the planet.
Oh, right. That's with like that mayor guy, right?
Yeah. So the woman played.
Okay.
The woman who was.
And there was a scientist who wanted to leave with them.
Yes.
Oh yeah, wasn't that Janine Garofalo?
No, that was this actress, Carolyn Seymour.
Oh.
Who played Tereth. the same actress.
Oh no, sorry. I was thinking of the woman that
I think
makes
it's like
Riker do
BB
coercive.
Newirth or
Oh,
something.
yes,
stuff.
yes, it was. Also known as
BB
Lilith
Newirth
from
or
Frasier.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she was the scientist who was not as skeptical about the situation in that episode.
Oh, wild. She was the one that I thought we would see again because she left with them, and nope, we never see her
Nope.
again. Well, I guess we do see her again, but not as...
You see her again.
The
She's joined the
scientist.
Romulans.
Yeah. Wild. She...
Right, so Dory,
Well, she's real
I'm
fun.
wondering if you would have liked the original premise for this episode a little bit better. So it was...
Well, here's the thing. If we hadn't had a billion other episodes of Troi being, like, dumped on, then I probably would have enjoyed this episode. If this was a one-off, even if, like, you know, she was thrown in this situation, I might have enjoyed it. It's purely because this is a pattern.
I get it.
That they're just constantly... But, okay, what's the original premise?
The original premise was actually pitched a couple of seasons ago. It was going to be a Q episode in which Picard, Data, and Troi were thrown onto a Romulan ship and had to, like, figure out their way off of it. However, the episode was going to do a really dumb quantum leap thing where the characters, because of Q, appeared to all of the Romulans as other Romulans. And to the audience, they would just be the regular-ass characters. And they were going to...
So they didn't have to budget makeup.
That's right. And they were going to clue into it with, like, mirror shots where you would see them appearing as, like, they are to the rest of the people on the ship and whatnot. And it ended up getting shot down because Quantum Leap was still fresh in everyone's minds. And they're just like, look, we can't just like ape Quantum Leap this obviously.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because who went on to be in Star Trek after this? Scott Bakula from Quantum Leap.
Honestly, I think I might have been more on board with that other premise.
I mean, realistically, it probably would have been a bit of a comedy episode, and I'm not sure that people would have loved that. We all know how Star Trek does comedy.
Better than... Yeah.
By failing to be funny.
All right. I think we should move on to predictions now.
Okay.
So, Dory, the next episode is called Tapestry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, Carol King.
So the next episode is a Picard episode.
Okay.
And so this will be a mix of the Netflix description and something that I've added. So, Captain Picard incurs serious wounds in a fight and his artificial heart is gravely damaged. And we get a glimpse into Picard's past.
A tapestry of his memories. Mm-hmm. Oh boy. Oh, okay.
I'm going to give you one clue. It's not a clip show.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, at least for TNG, they only did one clip show.
Yes, which you unfortunately watched of your own volition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
told you
remember
not
that.
to.
Did we even do an episode
No,
about
we
that?
refused to because there isn't enough content.
We didn't...
Right,
we
yeah,
did-
we
I
added
think
it on
we-
to the retrospective.
Yeah, it didn't have its own episode. It just, I talked about it a little bit in, the retrospective.
Yeah, because it is not an episode.
Yeah, I forgot about Picard's heart.
Mm-hmm.
My first hope would be that Dr. C would be there for, administer CPR amongst other things. But I'm not going to go that route because I know it's going to be wrong because I want it to happen. Okay. Well, normally, I guess people, in TV shows and movies, they do like flashbacks when they're like, life flashes before their eyes. So I'm going to assume Picard's in like really fucking bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they need to like put him under, like he needs to be unconscious. And that's why he's like going through, oh God, we see fucking Robert. I'm just trying to think, how would have he gotten injured? It's probably something dumb. I'm gonna guess this probably is not true. This is probably not accurate in the slightest, but maybe he's on like an archaeology dig and something like, I don't know, maybe he falls or
Maggie did specify that it's
they're
a
in a
fight.
dangerous a fight. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Maybe he gets into a fight with another archaeologist.
Yeah, there. Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry, I missed that for the fight part. Okay, well, if it's a fight, you know what? No, I'm gonna stick with that. The archaeology dig, and maybe someone like comes in who's not part of the group and is trying to like take the treasure or whatever, and he fights them to like protect the education of the location or whatever, of like the stuff and he gets hurt, and maybe it's like really far to like get to the closest like medical center or sick bay where they can do this, and that during that time he's like flashing back. Is that enough of a prediction?
Sure.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, if you'd like to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.